To understand history, Chaco said, we have to go inside and listen to what they are saying, and look at the books, and the pictures on the wall, and smell the smells. Esther and Rahel had no doubt that the house Chaco meant was the house on the other side of the river, in the middle of the abandoned rubber estate, where they had never been. Kari Saibu's house. The Black Sahib. The Englishman who had gone native. Who spoke Malayalam and wore mundoos. Imanam's own Kurtz. Imanam's private heart of darkness. He had shot himself through the head 10 years ago when his young lover's parents had taken the boy away from him and sent him to school. After the suicide, the property had become the subject of extensive litigation between Kari Saibu's cook and his secretary. The house had lain empty for years. Very few people had seen it. But the twins could picture it, the history house. With cool stone floors and dim walls and billowing ship-shaped shadows. Plump, translucent lizards lived behind old pictures and waxy, crumbling ancestors with tough toenails and breath that smelled of yellow maps, gossiped in sibilant, papery whispers. But we can't go in, Chaco explained, because we've been locked out. And when we look in, through the windows, all we see are shadows. And when we try and listen, all we hear is a whispering. And we cannot understand the whispering because our minds have been invaded by a war. A war that we have won and lost. The very worst sort of war. A war that captures dreams and redreams them. A war that has made us adore our conquerors and despise ourselves. Marry our conquerors is more like it, Amu said dryly, referring to Margaret Kachama. Chaco ignored her. He made the twins look up the word despise in the dictionary. It said, to look down upon, to view with contempt, to scorn or disdain. Chaco said that in the context of the war, he was talking about the war of dreams. Despise meant all those things. We are prisoners of war, Chaco said. Our dreams have been doctored. We belong nowhere. We sail unanchored on troubled seas. We may never be allowed ashore. Our sorrows will never be sad enough. Our joys never happy enough. Our dreams never big enough. Our lives never important enough to matter. Then, to give Esther and Rahel a sense of historical perspective, he told them about the Earth Woman. He made them imagine that the Earth, 4,600 million years old, was a 46-year-old woman, as old, say, as Aliama teacher, who gave them Malayalam lessons. It had taken the whole of the Earth Woman's life for the Earth to become what it was. For the oceans to part. For the mountains to rise. The Earth Woman was 11 years old, Chaco said, when the first single-celled organisms appeared. The first animals, creatures like worms and jellyfish, appeared only when she was 40. She was over 45, just 8 months ago, when dinosaurs roamed the Earth. The whole of human civilization, as we know it, Chaco told the twins, began only 2 hours ago, in the Earth Woman's life. As long as it takes us to drive from Imenam to Cochin. It was an awe-inspiring and humbling thought, Chaco said, that the whole of contemporary history, the world wars, the war of dreams, the man on the moon, science, literature, philosophy, the pursuit of knowledge, was no more than a blink of the Earth Woman's eye. And we, my dears, everything we are, and ever will be, are just a twinkle in her eye, Chaco said grandly, lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling. When he was in this sort of mood, Chaco used his reading aloud voice. His room had a church feeling. He didn't care whether anyone was listening to him or not. And if they were, he didn't care whether or not they had understood what he was saying. Amu called them his Oxford moods. Later, in the light of all that happened, twinkle seemed completely the wrong word to describe the expression in the Earth Woman's eye. Twinkle was a word with crinkled happy edges. Though the Earth Woman made a lasting impression on the twins, it was the history house, so much closer at hand, that really fascinated them. They thought about it often. The house on the other side of the river, looming in the heart of darkness. A house they couldn't enter, full of whispers they couldn't understand. They didn't know then that soon they would go in. That they would cross the river and be where they weren't supposed to be, with a man they weren't supposed to love. That they would watch, with dinner-plate eyes, as history revealed itself to them in the back veranda. While other children of their age learned other things, Esther and Rahel learned how history negotiates its terms and collects its dues from those who break its laws. They heard its sickening thud. They smelled its smell and never forgot it. History's smell, like old roses on a breeze. It would lurk forever in ordinary things. In coat hangers, tomatoes, in the tar on roads, in certain colors, in the plates at a restaurant, in the absence of words and the emptiness in eyes. They would grow up grappling with ways of living with what happened. They would try to tell themselves that in terms of geological time, it was an insignificant event. Just a blink of the Earth Woman's eye that worse things had happened. That worse things kept happening. But they would find no comfort in the thought